What's up, guys? LegitBrowniesGaming here, and today I'm bringing you the first episode of a new series I'm going to be doing called the Week-Long Wind Down. And basically, what this series was is in the the update video I put out a while ago. It was a video that I was talking about that was going to be on Fridays. This was the series I had in mind. It's a video where I'm going to be talking about a more serious kind of topic, like a thought-provoking topic. Sorry about that. Something to kind of, wrap up the week, get the thoughts going, kind of just chill out, have a conversation about a topic. So what the gameplay you're just gonna be seeing is some NHL 13 online versus and then a shootout later. I'm not sure if I'm gonna show the whole shootout because it kind of goes long. I might edit it. So I used a random number generator and because I had a couple topics I was thinking about talking about and I used a random number generator and it gave me the topic of decision making, which is actually quite interesting because I'm not a very decisive person in real life. I tend to be one of those people when somebody's like, well, would you rather do this or this? I'm just like, well, it doesn't really matter to me because most of the time it doesn't. Like, I can make a decision pertaining to myself. Like, if I'm like, all right, well, what I want to eat? Do I want, pizza or like a taco? I'll be like, well, I want a taco. But if other people are involved in the decision, it's like, well, what do you all want to eat? Do you all want to eat pizzas or tacos? Well, I don't really want to make a decision for someone else. So I tend to be that guy that's just like, it doesn't really matter to me. I could go either way. So I'm not very decisive in real life, but and sometimes at points you have to be decisive. So on an early Saturday morning, we will be talking about decision making. So I think the first step to any important decision is obviously identify what you're deciding. So, um, so like I said with the example with the food, like what am I deciding? Well, I'm deciding what I want to eat. So, and that's just basically it. I mean, there's not much to that step. I mean, what are you deciding? I mean, later in the video, I will be talking about certain choices in life that are a little more difficult, that do require a little more identifying. But for now, we'll keep it simple. So, what do I want to eat, right? So that's the decision. And then you have your choices. You have pizzas and tacos, right? So you weigh the outcome. You could have a good old pizza. Who really doesn't like pizza? I mean, it's amazing. You got the bread, the tomato sauce, cheese. Depending on what style you get pepperoni. All these other toppings. I mean, it's just a good thing. And then you have tacos, which are also pretty awesome because you got your depending on what type. I prefer soft shells personally. So you got your soft shell taco, the meat, the cheese, the I almost just said cream cheese. That's not it at all. It's sour cream. So, you know, you have all these different choices. So you weigh the outcomes, oh, I like tacos better, but I'm kind of in the mood for pizza, all that jazz. And then you make your decision. You're like, you know what? Well, I want a taco now. So, then you decide to eat a taco, right? And then that's just like the third step is you make your decision. Um, And then the fourth step is, I mean, you wouldn't really reflect on this choice, but you kind of think back, well, did I make the right choice? Was it the right thing? Um, so, I mean, let's talk about something a little more serious than food, right? Um, a lot of this series, I'm just gonna let you know, is gonna be based on things that I've done in my life or I have experienced in my life. So, it's gonna be a lot of like opinions. I'm pretty sure sometimes a lot of people aren't going to agree with what I say because it's going to be very opinionated. My ideas on how to handle situations might not necessarily be someone else's ideas, so it's going to be interesting to say the least. But anyway, so let's take a more serious example, right? So say you have someone you really like, right? See where this is going. You really like that person, right? You hang out with them a lot. They're really nice. Obviously, I mean, To me, looks don't really matter that much, but I mean, they're good looking to you, you know. So, I mean, they're just a really great person in general, right? They're always there for you, that kind of stuff. You're not sure if you want to ask them out or not. You're not sure if it's right because, you know, this, that, and the other thing, or you don't. I think the biggest problem a lot of people have with asking people out is a fear of getting rejected. So you're not sure if you want to ask them out for fear of getting a no. So you identify your decision. Do I want to ask this person out? Right? So then you move on to the second step, which is weigh the options. And then it gets really complicated with some decisions at this point, right? So say you ask them out. Best case scenario, they say yes, they're thrilled, they want to be with you too. You know, they want to be together. They'd been hoping you'd been doing this, or they were about to do it themselves. Something along those lines, right? Best case scenario. Worst case scenario, you get a no. You know, they say no, you know, I just want to stay friends, or they say no, it's not right, or you know, something along those lines, right? So that's your best and worst case scenario for asking them. You know, best case scenario, you get a yes. Worst case scenario, you get a no. Now, what's the other side of that? What is the benefits of not asking them? You don't have to have that fear of getting rejected. You don't have to put yourself in that potentially awkward situation if you're going to be dealing with them after you ask them out in the first place, right? You don't have to. I am sorry, guys. Man, it is early in the morning, like I said before. I am sorry. But you don't have to have that fear of getting rejected. You don't have to have that potential awkwardness, right? Um, you know, maybe you just don't want to do it. Maybe you don't know how to do it. Maybe it'll be better for you if you don't do it, right? So, flip side of not asking them out. And I'm not going to get too detailed with this because this is actually another video that I was going to do. Um, but, you know, what's the flip side of not asking them out, right? You never know. You don't know. And you know what? I might actually go into more detail with this now that I think about it because I've got like a good amount of time in this, but you don't know. And you probably won't know, right? If you don't ask them now and then they go on and they date someone else and they meet other people. What if you could have been the one that was dating them? What if that could have been you? So, you know, the flip side of asking them out is that you're not going to know. And, you know, a lot of people will tell you, oh, well, you know, it doesn't bother me all that much that I don't know. No, at least in my experience, it's better to know because, you know, say you don't ask them out and then, you know, even if it takes a while, like in some cases it might take a couple months later and then you're just like, man, you know, I really should have done this. You know, I really want to know now. Like I actually, you know, I like this person a lot. Why didn't I do this? You know, I really should have done it at the time. Because then eventually that non-action on your part turns into some cases it turns into regret, and regret's not a good thing because you can't do anything about it, right? It's gone, it's past. Unless you are lucky enough to be given second opportunities, most of the time your opportunity is past, and it's not very good. So, um, so then, you know, moving on. So you identified your positives and negatives of your decision. You decide, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to ask this person out. I really like them. I really think it's going to work. And let's take the good scenario because, of course, you're hoping you're going to get a yes. So let's take the positive scenario. They say yes. Now, you're dating this person that you really like. I'm pretty sure at this point there wouldn't be much to reflect on because you got what you wanted, right? You got the yes. So, I mean, anything you're going to reflect on is just going to be like, well, I'm really glad I made this decision. I'm really happy I chose this. Um, I took that chance. It was a bit of a risk, but in the end, it worked out. So when you get what you want, most of the time the reflection is just, oh, I'm glad I did this. You know, there's not too much to deliberate here. Um, if you don't get what you want, that's when it really starts to get keyed in. So say you get that no, right? Say you get rejected. Now you're thinking, well, was this really the right choice? Did I do the right thing? Was there any other way I possibly could have handled this? What could I have done different? And most of the time, I'll tell you right now, hindsight is always 2020. Looking back on things, you can always say, "Oh, I should have done this better. I should have done that better. I screwed this up." I'm telling you, at least like when I say I'm telling you, remember that this is very opinionated, so you might not agree with me, but what you do at the time probably, depending on what was going through your mind, what you do at the time made sense, right? It made sense to you. You were like, I want to ask this person out because I think they're going to say yes. So at the time, you were like, this could work. I really legitimately think this could work. I mean, and then, looking back, you're like, wow, I was an idiot. Why couldn't I see that she didn't like me like that? Why couldn't I see this? Oh, this was so obvious. At the time, you didn't know. I mean, at the time, the moment you made that decision, there's no possible way you could have known. I mean, unless it's blatantly obvious, most of the time, it's just like you couldn't have, So there's no point in regretting a decision you've made due to hindsight because when you look back on things, of course you're gonna see things you screwed up. I mean, everyone screws up. Nobody's perfect. But the thing about decision making is when you look back on a decision, you have to look back and say, you know what? This probably was the smartest thing to do at the time. There probably wasn't a better alternative. Of course, I'm thinking of one now, but that's because I've had 2 months to think about a better alternative. At the time, I had about a week to make my decision. So, you can't regret decisions. I mean, unless, of course, you make the wrong decision. And when you make the wrong decision, then yes, you can regret that decision. So, say you have a friend, right? And somebody starts a rumor about your friend, and you decide to help that rumor along for whatever reason. That is when you made the wrong decision. That is when you screwed up. And that's because that was a very dumb thing to do. Those are the only type of decisions I think you can really regret when it was blatantly obvious, probably at the time and in hindsight, that you shouldn't have done what you did, right? And any decision that hurts someone else in the process is definitely the wrong decision. Um, not see, it's not fair to say that all the time because sometimes decisions you're gonna make are gonna hurt people, right? If you're the CEO of a business and you have to decide who gets to keep their job, I mean that's probably one of the hardest decisions people ever have to make in their life. Who gets to keep their living? Who gets to keep their source of income, especially in times like, the economy now? You have to make that decision, and someone's going to get hurt in the process, and it's not going to be fun. So, I mean, when it comes to things like that, yes, people are going to get hurt, and yes, it's really not going to be fun for you either. But if you can avoid hurting people in a decision, it's probably the better option. So, I'll just recap what we've gone over so far. You got to identify your decision, weigh the positives and outcomes, make the decision, reflect back on it. When you weigh the positives and outcomes, weigh it thoroughly. Don't just half-ass it, especially if it's a big decision. And the reflection part is probably the trickiest because, like I said, there's going to be times when you look back and you're like, wow, I was an idiot. I really shouldn't have done this. Oh, asking her out was so stupid. But what would you be saying if it worked? Would you be sitting here saying, "Oh, this was dumb of me" if it worked? Probably not. So, my thing with decisions, this is me personally with decisions, what I like to think is if I can't give myself a solid, legitimate, concrete reason not to do something, what's the point in not doing it, right? So, say I'll take the example again, say I was thinking about asking out a girl, right? And I'm just like, well, I don't know. She might say no. That's a dumb reason not to. I'm telling you, the fear of rejection is what holds a lot of people back, and that's a very bad reason why you shouldn't make that choice. You get rejected, you move on. Such is life, right? Um, oh well, this happened. Oh, we're too close friends or something stupid like that. Like, if you can't give yourself a reason that makes sense to other people, that's the main point. Sorry about that. If your reason for not doing something, if you tell your friends and they're just like, dude, really? Like, are you serious right now? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Then you're, and I'm not talking about if just one friend. Like, if most of your friends, like, say you have 10 friends in a room and 9 of them are looking at you and going, really? You're afraid of getting rejected? Everyone is. Everyone has to run that risk. Everyone has to be afraid of that. So for you to not do something that could potentially cause you a lot of happiness because you're afraid of, a week of sadness, that's just not a good idea. So, if a majority of the other people are looking at you and saying, well, that's a legitimate reason. Like, say you're like, oh, I want to go skydiving, right? But the reason you don't want to go skydiving, not because you're afraid of heights, but because you don't want to run that risk. I mean, most skydiving is very safe. It's very safe. It's done with instructors. It's done under controlled settings. But say you just don't want to run that risk. Like, you don't have life insurance, You have a family. You don't want to put them in a bad spot by doing this. That's a legitimate reason, I guess I would assume most people would say, some people are going to be like, oh, that's stupid. You're not going to get hurt. Nothing's going to happen. But you just don't want to take that chance. You don't want to leave people in a bad position. So, you know, or let's take a more legitimate example that I think a lot more people would agree with. Your two friends are fighting and you decide, I'm not going to pick a side, right? I'm just going to let them argue because I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I don't want to ruin a friendship. I want them to work it out so we can all just stay friends. That's a legitimate reason. I'm pretty sure a lot of people would look at you and go, you know what? That's very smart. Your friends are fighting. You want to stay in the middle because you don't want to take a side and potentially ruin a friendship over some petty argument that they're having that has nothing to do with you in the first place. So, I'm pretty sure a lot of people would agree with that. So, if you can't give yourself a reason to not do something, then what do you have to lose, right? What negatives could come out of a decision that has no negatives that are really long lasting or far reaching or affect other people? So, that's just my take on decisions. This video is kind of long, sorry about that, but like I said, I'm not very decisive in real life. So, this isn't really a field that I'm like, the master at. Um, it's hard sometimes. It's very hard sometimes. I mean, sometimes you got to make decisions that aren't easy. Someone's gonna get hurt, and it's not fun. But I mean, especially when it comes to the thing with like, oh, do I want to ask this person out? It sounds really simple on paper. It is very, very difficult. So this video is winding to a close, guys. This is gonna be a series I'm gonna try and do weekly. So I'll keep you guys posted on it, and have a good day.